It's like if people see a certain amount of views, people see a certain amount of likes and subscribers, they think the content is worth watching. But I've been watching Corey since he had like 200K. And I remember going to one of my cousins telling them that they should watch Corey Kenshin and how he had really good content. And I remember he wouldn't watch him because he didn't have over 1 million subscribers at the time. All right, so if you haven't been on the internet, you might not have seen the latest view botting epidemic crackdown that is happening on Twitch. So basically what happened was Twitch said that they were going to crack down on all the streamers who were view botting and inflating their numbers. Now, a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on view botting, but I'm gonna tell you mine. And don't get mad if you don't agree with it. Contrary to what a lot of people believe, I don't honestly think view botting is that bad. And it's really two reasons for it. Because at the end of the day, view botting is not gonna get you a real audience if you still don't have good content. Because ultimately, the only reason that people view bot is basically for that herd mentality type of thing. Now, I know there's some people in the world who don't care how many views a certain stream has, or don't care how many views a certain video has, or things like that. But there's a lot of people who won't even check something out if it doesn't have a certain amount of viewers. And how do I know this? I was one of those people at one point. Honestly, at a certain point, if a video or a stream had 20, 30 views, I'm probably not checking that out. And that was ultimately before I started making content, because after I started making content, I realized how there could be, good underground content that people just don't know about yet. But before that, if a video wasn't touching 5, 10K views, ultimately, I probably wouldn't look at it unless it was super interesting. And I know firsthand that this is not a feeling that is just exclusive to me. The biggest example I can think of this growing up was Corey Kenshin. And I know y'all probably are wondering why I said Corey Kenshin, especially since he has 22 million subscribers now. But I've been watching Corey since he had like 200K. And I remember going to one of my cousins telling them that they should watch Corey Kenshin and how he had really good content. And I remember he wouldn't watch him because he didn't have over 1 million subscribers at the time. And that was the first time I really saw that, like, oh, people won't watch something if they don't think like it has anything going on. And I feel like, especially from Corey's point of view, Corey had great content at that point. He just hadn't blown up yet. And I think ultimately a lot of people have gotten on that train now. But at that time, I saw like how people really wouldn't watch if they didn't think it was just worthy of their time. And that number, those views, subscribers, whatever it is, it almost like gives you some sort of validation. It's like if people see a certain amount of views, people see a certain amount of likes and subscribers, they think the content is worth watching because they want to see what all these other people like. And ultimately, on the viewer side of it, I don't think anything's wrong with that, because ultimately you can watch whatever you want to. But at the end of the day, just because you have those numbers doesn't mean that people are actually going to watch the content and stay and become fans, because ultimately that will get you nowhere in the game, especially if your content is bad. And I wasn't that familiar with view botting, obviously, because I don't stream and I didn't know how much like it really costs to have these things done. So I did a little research and I saw it cost like almost $1,000 to have 1,000 viewers. Kind of changed my idea on like the thought that people were doing this to like farm and steal money. Because at the end of the day, bro, if you're paying $1,000 for viewers, I don't think like the ad money that you would get from your stream would equal up to the amount that you bought. Like real people get into your stream just because your numbers weren't inflated. That means they still had to like your stream to stay on. Nobody's gonna stay on the stream just because they think it has a certain amount of numbers if it's not entertaining. It just doesn't happen like that. And it's kind of honestly the hardest part of being a small creator, just communicating to people that your content is worth watching. In the realm of the internet today, it's millions of content creators and millions of fans of these people who already know their content is gonna be good and provide some sort of enjoyment in some type of way. So it can be hard for somebody to come on a platform, click your video over their favorite content creator's video, especially if they already know what they're going to get from them. Still now to this day, most of the time when I come on YouTube, I pretty much already have exactly who I want to watch. I'm like, let me go on YouTube. Let me see what Dior dropped. Let me see what Corey dropped, even though Corey hasn't dropped in forever. Or let me see what the Black Hokage dropped. Like, most of the time, I go on YouTube for clear intention. And whenever I'm looking for, like, to browse a video, most of the time, I'm going to watch a video that's probably already popped off to a certain extent. Because that's honestly the videos that's going to be on my recommended more than anything. So I think that's kind of where the view botting epidemic kind of began. Because all these people, put in a lot of work, who know their content is worth watching, but just want the chance to be seen. They just want a chance for people to look at their content. And at the end of the day, I don't really feel like that's that bad, because like I said, at the end of the day, bro, somebody still is gonna have to like your content to stay. They're not gonna stay just because of the numbers. It just doesn't happen like that. It's not just something that's like exclusive streaming or content. Like, music labels have been doing this forever. That's literally the whole point of getting signed. So they could put money into you, promote you, put you on the radio, because all of that stuff costs. It costs to have radio play in all those different cities. They had the connections to put you on interviews and have people see your name and things like that. And also, I don't know if you know, but the record labels pay for streams too. One artist that I know had a lot of suspicion around him was somebody like Don Toliver. I remember like his song a few years ago, I think it was Do It Right. It had like 5 million and like a few hours or something like that, and just a bunch of fake comments and stuff like that. So it looked clear that the label probably bought the streams, bought the views on the video, and bought comments. And on the song in question, I actually like that song. But just because it had fake and inflated numbers does not make me like the song any less or more. No content creator, no artist, nobody who's trying to get any sort of name from the things that they're doing is gonna wanna just keep paying for views, because it's not gonna lead to them doing anything but hurting their own pocket. Because like I said, I didn't even know this stuff cost that much. But this stuff is not cheap at all, in the slightest. I didn't explicitly say it, but that's really the second reason I don't think it's that bad. It's because, bro, your favorite artist is probably doing this. This is not a new tactic. It's probably just something that became more mainstream with the popularity of streaming. But that doesn't mean that they invented it. Because especially these bigger streamers with a lot of teams behind them and stuff, they know this herd of the sheep mentality thing, and they know how to exploit it. At the end of the day, like I said, just because somebody view bots doesn't mean it just leads to a bunch of fans. Take somebody like Rakai, for example, who has been accused of view botting. I don't like any of Rakai's streams. And to be fair, this is not a diss to Rakai. His content is just not for me. But genuinely upset about view botting would really tell you that I would be almost inclined to like his streams because that he's view botted. Now, have I heard of Rakai because of this? I would still say no, because honestly, I probably heard of Rakai because of catching that. But at the end of the day, that still never made me want to watch his content. If you're somebody who just looks at numbers to decide who you're gonna become a fan of, honestly, I think that's more of a problem within yourself. Now, I ain't gonna lie, these people definitely do exist, because some people who are fans of rappers, I really see it with music more than anything, I always like to pull up their numbers as like justification of they're a better rapper, which never made sense to me, because I don't understand like why how many people listen to you like just justifies how good of a rapper you are. Like, there are millions of people underground with talent that I like way more than Drake. And Drake is one of the biggest rappers on the planet. He has the biggest numbers on the planet. But just because he has those numbers does not make me a bigger fan or make me think he's just better. I know he has a whole team around him. These people are promoting him so he's in front of your face all the time. That's what comes with being signed. Think about somebody like Russ, for example. Russ has 12 million monthly listeners. But if you like me, I feel like I never really see Russ around, and I never really just see Russ in the mix. Like, he's not just constantly in my face like somebody like Drake or Kendrick would be. And that's because he's not signed. He's not on the radio. He's not on these interviews. So you're just not gonna see a whole bunch of just articles about him or him at these award ceremonies and things like that. Because a lot of that stuff is driven by labels signing them, not specifically for view bots, but just them putting them in positions to be more in front of your face. Another good example of this that I could think of is Rich Amiri, who has also been accused of buying streams and things like that. I'm a fan of Rich Amiri, and just because he bought streams or whatever does not make me any less of a fan of him. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm just here to listen to his music, just like it should be with the content. If you're here for content, you should just watch the content and not worry about the view count or whatever. Some people, in fact, even like smaller creators because they think it's more genuine. And it probably is, because it's not like a big team behind them pushing them to say certain things, saying you can't say this, you can't say that. And if that's you, that's fine. But if it's also not, that's also fine. As a consumer and as a human being, you have the right to listen to whatever you want to listen to. And if that may or may not be somebody who's view botting, then that's your own prerogative. But at the end of the day, you cannot argue that view botting just produces organic fans without some sort of talent or entertainment. It just doesn't happen. If you really think about it, I could edit a video of a 12-minute black screen and buy views on it, but nobody's gonna remember me for the dude with the black screen. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if somebody's buying views, I feel like it can do nothing but boost their exposure. Now, if you're a streamer who like boasts off of these inflated numbers, I do feel like that's a little weird because you know how you got the numbers. And it is some people who seem to have done that, and that's a whole different topic, and I don't feel like you should boast off of it. But at the end of the day, that could be somewhat of a promotion tactic too. Cause even like Moneybagg Yo said, he said before he got on, he would wear all the fake chains because he said he felt like he had to look like money to make money. And even though it's unfortunate, sometimes that's what it takes for people to look at you. They gotta think you already got something going on. Now that method of getting seen made Moneybagg Yo's music any better or worse? No, I would have still liked some of Moneybagg Yo's songs even if he didn't have the chains on. But because he had the chains on, it might have boosted him in my algorithm a little bit more. I don't know. Ultimately, at the end of the day, bro, I just feel like as a consumer, bro, you shouldn't even worry about the view count. You should just pretty much give anything a chance if you think it's interesting. And on the flip side of that, don't use a view count to justify somebody's talent or worth in a certain field. Sometimes people just have to grind or have started at different times to get to a certain level of notoriety. Think about the example I gave you about Corey Kenshin. If I would have wrote him off at that time, I might have never became a big fan of him. And ultimately, he grinded for years after that, and now he's one of the biggest YouTubers. He's sitting at 22 million if you never watched him. Also, content creators or artists, don't think you have to buy views to be able to like get on top, because you ultimately don't. I feel like all these algorithms now have gotten a lot better. So most of the time, I feel like they do a good job of matching your content with somebody who's going to like it. So please don't spend all your money just trying to get a few extra streams. Because honestly, at the end of the day, like I said, your content has to be good. So if you spend all this money on views and your content not even good enough yet, you might just end up being out of a bunch of money for no reason. Trust me, I feel like it's better to spend your money on equipment, on getting better, maybe even courses to learn how to do certain things better to make your content better. But just doing it to artificially inflate your views, I don't think that will ultimately be worth it in the end of the day. Anyway, that's pretty much all I gotta say about view botting. Like I said, honestly, if you're a consumer, I don't even think you should care. And as a streamer too, again, I don't think you should care, because you just have to remember that these robots are not real people who like them. It's not even anything to sweat about. If their online metrics say they're making a certain amount of bread, you gotta think about the money they put into it. So it might not even be like profitable for them. Anyway, like I said, that was it. If you liked the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for tuning in today. Tune into some of my other videos. You might like them. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time.